Okay, we're good. Welcome everyone to the regularly scheduled Town Council meeting for Wethersfield. This is the Tuesday, July 5th meeting. Will Councilwoman Carbone please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our Town Clerk, Sue, please do us the honor of attendance tonight.
All right, thank you. Councilor Biggs?
Present.
Councilor Carbone?
Present.
Councilor Forrest? Councilor Hill? Councilor Lesser?
Here.
Councilor O'Connor?
Here.
Councilor Pentelow?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mazzarella?
Here.
Mayor Rell?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Looking at the agenda, item A1, we don't have any hearings tonight. Item A2, general comments. We do have some folks from the public who are here tonight. This is the first of the public hearings or public comments section. Again, as a reminder to everybody, you're limited to 5 minutes, and please state your name and address. Mr. Young?
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. This weekend or so, I received my tax bill. And you know, I kept hearing about this $29 mil thing that the governor was going to be giving us. But then it dawned on me that, oh, that's next year. It's not this year when we really need it. It's probably starts in January of 6 months from now. But then I started reading other articles. I didn't get the $29 per vehicle off my tax bill. I got a regular rate. So anyway, that's what I suspect. It's next year.
Just a clarification, the original proposal from the governor was 29 mil. I think what the legislature approved was a 32.46, and that is what this year's mill rate is on motor vehicles.
That's correct.
And I'll look at it. But I thought we were getting a reduction.
Well,
Which means if our mill rate is 40 and we're getting 32, I would expect to see eight mills for the car.
it all depends on the valuation of your used car, which unfortunately nationwide has gone up. So,
Well, I'll call your tax collector tomorrow.
the assessor.
Assessor. Okay, but anyway, getting back to that little piece of a discussion, I have noticed that they created something called the Municipal Revenue Share Account at the state capitol. And in reading it, they're talking about 29 mills, 32 point some mills. They're talking a few other kind of mills. And then it says that the cap currently remains at 45 mills, meaning only communities above that level receive relief. I never knew we had this. That means every community out there that has recklessly spent money creating their mill rate to go over 45 mills, they're getting relief. Those who kept their mill rate below, they're paying right out of their pocket. The citizens are. And I, just by reading that, what an inequity we have here in this state.
You may just want to check on the date of that newsletter. The cap is at 32.46 is the cap.
Okay, but it said the cap currently remains at 45 mills. That might have been when they wrote this, which was on April 14th, 2022. So cities like Hartford and Bridgeport and all those other communities out there that have high mill rates, they were already getting this benefit that we're now hearing we might get. And again, it's totally inequitable. We all should have been getting that. It's the same idea with giving a senior some kind of a knockoff on his taxes. Oh, but there's a limit. If he makes too much money, he doesn't get anything. You know, so when you start saying, when politicians say, oh, we have this benefit for seniors, I'm going to jump up every time and correct you. It's only for certain ones. The rest of us, we don't get anything. And I just wanted to make that a point because, you know, there's so much inequity in our government, and there's so little that we can trust when we hear things from our government. Now, I've been talking to you about a number of issues over the last number of months, and there was an article in the Hartford Courant called "Inflation Takes Toll on New Projects." And it talks about the price hikes cutting the value of the Biden $1 trillion infrastructure plan. Now, you folks got some money out of that $1 trillion. How much are you seeing in increases? Because this article says that water pipes went up 19%. It also said that some town in the state of Massachusetts paid for asphalt 37%. And I know tonight you have on your agenda about asphalt, right? You're going to, how much, because it boils down to the fact, and my question is, how much is our bids going up now? And don't forget, our asphalt purchases are based on ton. Or you can base it on how many miles. Unfortunately, the streets, if they're a little wider, you got to really do it by ton. But the thing, because again, some streets are narrower and you get so many miles. Some streets are wider and you only get a few less miles, a lot less miles. But, you know, we should be looking at this as to what our increase are going to be versus what's going on in other areas of the country and in our own area here. What is our increase? Do we have to pony up more money to get to the same tonnage as we had last year? And how much would that be? There should be some kind of a comparison that we can talk about. And, you know, this inflation is all caused by all this free money that you guys got. I mean, the town of Wethersfield got, what, $7 million for the town. And then, of course, the board got something. You know, that money came out of thin air. There wasn't anything to support it. And when you go to buy something with that $7 million, and every community in the state and the country is buying things like generators and gosh, who knows what, you're all competing and the price is going up and you're getting a lot less.
Mr. Young,
You're
your
getting a
5
lot
minutes.
less to show that money had no buying power, and that's where we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to comment? Seeing none. Item 2B, council reports, boards and commissions. Anybody with any comments on boards and commissions? Councilman Lesser.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Parks and Rec Board's June meeting, and a few items from their meeting of interest. One is they're co-sponsoring a food truck festival with the Wethersfield Education Foundation on July 19th from 4 to 7. There'll be a pizza truck, there'll be a chocolate chip cookie truck, I understand. I know where I'll be having dinner that night, and I hope my fellow counselors and the public can join. It is a fundraiser for the Wethersfield Education Foundation. Secondly, there was an interesting discussion about having smoke-free fields, which some of our neighboring towns have done. There is, you have to go through the state to do that, and if we do it, it would ultimately come back to the council if we wanted to approve something like that, and if we did, a bunch of signage would go up about smoke-free fields. And then on an even lighter note, you might have seen me mentioning this, but pickleball, we have pickleball courts now at Hamner. We have 2 courts with pickleball lines and with a lower than tennis net. And in case you didn't know, it is the fastest growing sport in America. So I tried to play on Saturday. I did not do very well, but I'm going to continue to try. It's a fun sport, and we now have it right here in Weathersfield. So good meeting and food truck festival on 2 weeks from tonight, as I said, the 19th from 4 to 7
Great.
at the Cove Park. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you.
Just a question for you, Ken. Are those courts now just pickle courts?
So they're tennis courts, but with the pickleball lines, and we can take the lines off them, but the Parks and Rec Board said we're going to try it and see what the interest level is. There, right now, I think, are 8 to 10 tennis courts in Weathersfield, and prior to this, there was no pickleball, and there's been more interest. So they can be either, but right now, they're kind of pickleball. And there's talk about putting a sign there that says pickleball courts.
But you said it's a lower net.
It's a lower net. You can raise the net. So it's the tennis net, but they lower it to pickleball level, and they have lines. You know, the court is much smaller. You use a wiffle ball and like a paddle. It's in between tennis and ping pong, but it's gotten pretty popular. If you want to have a match, you'll probably win, but I'll challenge you, Dan. I'm not very good,
I'm
though.
up for it. Well, I've never played, so.
Well, I played once, so, but I'm not very good. Thank you, Dan.
Great, thank you. Anything else from boards, commissions? General comments? I'll just talk about one general comment that came to me. Some folks were concerned about the Wells Road 175 from Silas Deane Highway to the Newington border. And I think this had been brought up in the past, but now that they're seeing the work that's going on, this is a DOT project, if I'm not mistaken, where they're resurfacing it. There was questioning from one particular constituent about the rationale for that. And, you know, it was repaved 5-6 years ago. You know, what was the need for it? And I do see Derek here. He might be able to answer some of those. But just wanted to express some concerns from at least one or two residents that we have 175, and it is, even though it is a state road, you know, it is still taxpayer money that's going into this. Was there anything that was deteriorating, or was it just simple routine maintenance that they needed to do? So just one question out there, and we can follow up with either DOT or Derek in the future on that. And that was it for me. Anything else from anybody? Hearing none. Town managers report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quickly, I attended the library board meeting last week. Got a chance to meet with all the members there and get an introduction to them. Also attended the groundbreaking, the ribbon cutting for Indulge Bakery over on Silas Deane, and the mayor was there as well, and members of EDIC, and it's a nice little operation they have there, little mini donuts, and seem to be very popular, and they seem to be doing well a year in. And finally, I joined Councilman Pentelow down at the Charles. We had a discussion with the merchants down there regarding Porch Fest and their desire to close off the streets there for that event, similar to what they do with the holiday event. So we're coordinating. The chief joined us, and we're coordinating with them now to make that a reality. So just to give you all a heads up on that, we're still in the planning stages, but it looks like that's going to happen. And that's all I have.
Good. Yeah, I think some of the organizers of that last year came to us about less than a month beforehand, and we were just trying to move, you know, get some moving parts together to see if we could do that. But I think if we could close it off, obviously the merchants and the public going to the event would be happy. We just have to do a balance between timing-wise and you know, the concerns or the input from the residents who live in the area. But I think it's a good idea, especially the fact that it's the end of August, and hopefully people will be on vacation, and, you know, we can free up some traffic for them there. Okay. Hearing nothing else. Sue?
The only thing that right now is we just are winding down with the dog licenses. We issued 1,300, so that's I think that's pretty good, considering I think our numbers are back up to where they used to be at the end of June, so that's a good thing. But not all the way, but close.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item B1, resignations and appointments from boards and commissions. There are a handful of resignations, just I think 2 on the Democrat side and 2 on the Republican side, if I'm not mistaken. So if folks are ready, Ken, you want to go first?
I have the appointment list. Is that, I don't know if we had any resignations, but, yeah, thank you, Mayor. To the Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission, effective June 22nd, 2022, David D. Ambrose, 119 Farmingdale Road, 8/2/21 to 6/30/24.
Second.
Yeah, you got that one.
I think, yeah. We're doing one at a time, or?
Oh, you can do them both.
Okay. And from the Weathersfield Heritage Commission, effective June 23rd, 2022, Carol R. Bruce, Old Weathersfield Historic District, 9/20/21 to 6/30/24.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. And then we'll do the resignations. These are the 2 walk-ins.
Resignation from the Fair Rent Commission, Diane McAdams of 108 Eastern Drive, to term of 5/17/21 to 6/30/23. And from the Library Board of Directors, Diane McAdams, 108 Eastern Drive, 9/20/21 to 6/30/24.
Motion
Second. So give it to
made
Dan.
and seconded, and these are effective July 14th of this year. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. And then, do you want to do a walk-in first, or?
I'll do the walk-in at the end, I guess.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Sure.
So a long list of appointments to the Assessment Appeals Board, George W. Cody, 131 Charter Road, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. To Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, Joseph Soya, 30 Hedgegrow, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Lou Michaels, 303 Garden Street, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Constables, George Cody, 131 Charter Road, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Stephen McFarland, 80 Farmingdale, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Robert Turgeon, 962 Cloverdale Circle, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. James Williams, 15 Hartford Avenue, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Disabilities, Weathersfield Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities, Daniel Andrews, 21 Stonegate, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Board of Ethics, alternate, John Adamian, 86 Waterview Drive, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. Fence viewers, Peter Gardo, 60 Griswold Road, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Eric Litke, 33 Farmstead, 7/5/22 to 6/30/24. Inland Wetlands and Conservation Committee, David Harold, 227 Griswold Road, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. Library Board of Directors, Michelle DePola, 20 Settlers Circle, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. Parks and Rec Board, Mary Frazier, 217 Prospect Street, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. Planning and Zoning, James Hughes, 135 Highland, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. An alternate, David Drake, 14 Quail Hill, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. Shade Tree Commission, Bruce Graver, 55 Round Hill, 7/5/22 to 6/30/25. Veterans Commission, Jennifer Glick, 32 Potter's Crossing, 7522 to 63024. Rick Newell, 308 Knott Street, 7522 to 63024. Sandra Rhodes, 36 Goff Road, 7522 to 63024. Mark Rudowitz, 6 Timber Trail, 7522 to 63024. Zoning Board of Appeals, alternate, Bill Davison, 144 Knott Street, 7522 to 63023. And a couple walk-ins. Fair Rent Commission, oh, I'm sorry, that's a wrong page. Historic District Commission, Damian Krigo, 493 Main Street, 7522 to 63025. That's it.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
What did you say, Tom?
Can you repeat that?
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Tom. And like I said to Councilman Forrest at the last meeting, have a drink of water. Those are long lists. They typically come up at the end of June every year, so.
And I pronounced some of the people's names correctly.
I think you did a great job, sir.
Well done.
Okay, thank you for those. Approval of ordinances or resolutions, we have none of those tonight. There's no unfinished business. Thank you at the last meeting for that. We do have some bids. Derek is in the audience, Director of Engineering for us. These are the bids for the fall paving program. These we see every year, fall and spring paving. And you'll let us know about the bids that had come back in.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Derek Greger, Town Engineer. Yes, I'm here tonight primarily to talk about the fall paving program. The first one up on the agenda is for our Bituminous concrete paving operation. The town, like a lot of municipalities, use state contracts for this type of work. It's generally cost-effective, lower cost at higher volume. So the state this year did issue a bid like they usually do. Tilcon was the low bidder for work that we're going to be doing here in town. They're currently working for us under the spring program and scheduled to finish up our spring paving program this week. So I'm here tonight seeking approval to utilize them again for our fall program with a $625,000 increase to their existing purchase order. Be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Any questions for Derek? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Just one, Derek. One of the residents was commenting this evening about cost increases on pavement, and is this based on last year's or prior approval that we gave for the state contract? Or?
Yeah, the way the state contract is structured, they have an asphalt adjustment cost built in. So what they do is they just look at a correlation between the price of oil that is published regularly by DOT at the time of the bid versus at the time of construction. So if it goes down, the price goes down. If it goes up, the price goes up. Yeah, it's gone up significantly, this year, even probably since I was here last in the spring. This estimate includes, I think they had an escalation factor of about $80,000 in there for the increased cost of paving. And that was an estimate based on the day of the quote. It could change between now and then. So yeah, that is accounted for in these numbers that we're presenting.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify for everyone, we're getting less miles out of the same amount of dollars. So.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe not less miles, but
Less
less
coverage,
coverage.
square foot, whatever you want to.
Yeah, because this only covers, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 actual linear miles.
This program, I mean, as it worked out, this is our last program in the 5-year program we had developed a number of years ago. It's a little larger than most, and we're being kind of aggressive to utilize the funds that we have. That combined with the fact that it's an increase in cost to a lot of the materials is really, that's why these numbers are a little higher than they usually are, because it is a large program. But As far as mileage goes, yeah, I don't have it off the top of my head. I want to say, yeah, it's just under 2 miles. So comparatively, in the spring, we did about a mile, a little under a mile of road. So it's almost double, really, what we did in the spring.
Okay. I had a question about oh, no, it's on the next one, the 70,000 for Connecticut seal coating. So this is just the Tilcon one. Any other questions for Derek while we have him on this one? Hearing none. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to award bid to furnish and place bituminous concrete during the next paving program to Tilcon, Connecticut, in the amount not to exceed $625,000.
Second.
Discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, this is the second one for seal coating.
Yes, you may remember, for those of you that have been on the council for a while, we used to use state contracts for our milling and reclamation. Last year, the state removed reclamation work from their contract, so we can no longer utilize it. So this year, we put out a local bid. While we were putting it out, and included milling, pavement reclamation, pavement removal, and grading. We had 5 bidders come in. Connecticut Sealcoating was our low bid. They have been working for us on the spring program, doing primarily reclamation work. That's what the program was, all reclamation. This fall program includes both milling and reclamation. We got a mixture, which is not uncommon for our programs, depending on the pavement conditions that we're seeing out there. So they just recently finished up our spring program, and the cost, I was here in the spring, I think was about $70,000 for that work, estimating about the same for the fall. So I'm here seeking an increase in their PO to have them back in the fall to complete the program for this year. It was a 1-year contract we had signed with them.
Oh, okay. Any questions for Derek on this one? Councilman O'Connor?
Yeah, Derek, so if I'm reading this right, the bid for Connecticut seal coating was significantly less than everybody else. I mean, in some cases by 50%. Does that cause concern? I mean, I know you just alluded to the fact that we did them for the spring, so obviously you must feel some comfort with them. But it just seems like, you know, their price per square foot and everything is so dramatically less than the others, that are we going to be in a situation where they're just going to say, hey, I'm out of money, I can't do anymore?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe it may have been raised even in the spring. Obviously, yes, they are substantially lower. We had this conversation with them in the spring. They felt like they may have miscalculated a little bit as far as how much material comes off site, because when we're doing a lot of reclamation work, we take the existing pavement, we grind it all together and make a gravel base. But to keep the road at the same elevation, we basically have to scrape off 4 inches of material, haul it off site, and then pave 4 inches, so we end up back at the same place. So they had said they misjudged that, but they were comfortable going forward with the price that they had. I mean, our experience with them this spring was the workmanship was very good. They did a really nice job. We did have issues as far as schedule and them supplying enough equipment and manpower to meet our needs or stay on our schedule. So that's something we'll circle back with them. Last discussions we had, they were planning to come back in the fall, but that is something we'd like to address, and I think that's a side effect of being a low bidder. We're low on the priority list, so we just want to talk with them a little bit and try and get them moving along a little quicker. But other than that, we thought the work they did was very good, so we didn't have any issues with that.
And do you feel like the bid they gave you now is more reflective of the work, so you're comfortable with that bid?
Yeah, I mean, this was the bid from it. I think it opened back in February, and they've been working under these unit prices. And we have worked with them where it's possible. Some areas we can raise the road without a problem, and it actually doesn't hurt. It gives us more base material under the pavement. So in areas we could do that, we do that, so they don't have to take material off. Other areas they do, and we said it needs to come out, and they took it out. So, like I said, we've been comfortable working with these prices, and they've agreed to it again. If something changes between now and our start date, I'll be back and we'll have another conversation. However, looking at these prices, if we weren't willing to use them and move to number 2, it's a substantial cost increase to the point where even if the schedule drags a little bit, I think from a dollar perspective, it's still worth the difficulty in just managing that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Derek on this one? Okay, is there a motion on this one? Oh, that was my question, by the way. That's what I was going to ask about the cost differential.
Technically, that was Councilor Carbone's question, but
Oh, okay.
I was timid about asking. She said,
In
she
the-
said, Tom intimidates me, can you ask?
So,
I was going to actually question all that expensive work being done on Broad Street in front of three of the 9 counselors live there.
One is absent tonight.
So, I
In
hope-
fairness, like I said, this was scheduled a number of years ago, so.
this is the
Nothing new.
5-year plan.
Just so happens, we get
They
it.
told you to be prepared for that question.
If you've seen some of the potholes, they've been there longer than 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make a motion to award the bid for milling, reclamation, pavement removal, and fine grading road work to Connecticut Sealcoating LLC in the amount not to exceed $70,000.
Discussion? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. And then staying on with that same area, this is the prep and restoration work for General Paving, who's, I think, been doing this for us, yes, for a number of years. And if you can just give us a little background on the work that they would be doing, and I think this is a continuation of all their contract with us.
Yeah, this is our third component for any of our programs. It's generally paving, reclamation and milling as a contractor, and then general paving is the town's on-call contractor. They've been working for us for a number of years. Right now, they're working under a contract extension until 2024. They complete work associated with the program that town staff is not available or able to do in some cases. So that includes minor drainage improvements, road patching, curb and apron replacements they do. They do help with hauling off excess material from the site at times, depending on the contract we're using, and also with signage, maintenance, protection of traffic. So they've always served as kind of an extension of staff. They assign one foreman to us, and he's been very good, and he helps us, particularly with the amount of work we're doing and the staff that we have. It does help us to have them involved. So as I've typically come in here, I'm just requesting an increase to their existing PO, similar to what we've done in past programs, to cover the cost of the work associated with this, which, even though prices have gone up, we're still working under the same unit prices. For those of you that were here when we had the contract extension, they're pretty much working under their 2014 bid prices at this point. They had agreed to do that, to get the extension, and that's where we are now. So I've got a couple more years on that.
Any questions for Derek on this? Mr. Deputy Mayor?
I have one, Derek. It's not really towards this, but it may fall under general paving's, work. Has the town looked at the possibility of doing like significant patch repairs on areas that, we see some of the crack sealing that is just, spider cracks everywhere. The road is not on any short list to be properly redone. But I'm curious if we've considered making a sizable cut, say 20 by 20 or something like that, going down to the full depth, having someone do a significant patch, like 2-course patch, not, pothole, fill the pothole thing. And would that be cost effective? Maybe you get a few more years out of that one bad area where the rest of the road might not be in bad shape.
Yeah, we do utilize them for that. For a number of years, our contract only included, it included a number of items, but for restoration, it was one item. It was dig out everything, put everything back. Since then, with every contract extension, we've added other items that sometimes are more appropriate, because it really depends on the failure condition. Sometimes it's just pavement failure, but not base failure. So we have pricing in there where we can just have them take off pavement, touch up the base and pave again. We have different thicknesses we may ask them to put back, whether it's 2 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches, depending on how long it'll be till the road's done, as a cost-saving measure, so we don't dig out everything all the time, no matter what the conditions are. So we do utilize them for that. We've had patches in, I'm thinking Highland Street near Griswold was a recent one they had done for us. We had them working with us on Ridge Road. We got together with another contractor in physical services, and I think there were 9 different areas where they milled, one lane width for 50 feet. General Paving came in and paved it under their existing contract. So we do that where we can, mostly out of necessity, because like you said, sometimes these roads are not on our short list, and we may need to get more time out of them. So it's a judgment call on, is it worth it? Crack seal is relatively inexpensive. Yes, we do sometimes end up with roads that probably have too much cracking to really make it worthwhile. I mean, we do buy some time with that, but we do look at that as a condition. As we've done on a couple of roads too, we'll sometimes come in and do a thin, what I call a skim coat or temporary coat. We did on Woka Hill Road up here recently. We've done on some other streets, Dix Road last fall, as a way to put a Band-Aid on it until we can get there. We know it's going to need to be done, but we can't get to it right away. So sometimes that will tie everything together and hold it together for a period of time until we can get there. But the method of repair and the extent of it is usually just a judgment call by staff as to what we feel is going to be best.
Thank you.
In the agenda later on, we'll see, I think it's either in the capital improvement or in the,
Other business, 5.
yeah, department requests. There was something with Straddle Hill, and I know that's been a problem at the base of Straddle Hill for a couple of years, so that's similar to, I mean, you're not going to redo all of Straddle Hill, but where it meets with, I forget if it's Willow.
Yes.
That's where, that low water spot or whatever the issue is down there.
Yeah, that whole neighborhood has some settlement issues that we are going to try and address. I've been working with a consultant right now to get a contract or get a price from them to do that work, so I'll probably may be coming back to you depending on what that cost is for it. But that lower segment of Straddle Hill is in very, very bad shape. I don't think it can wait a couple years that it may take, because depending on the extent of the work required to address the settlement, we didn't want to wait on that lower segment. So yeah, there is some money being requested through ARPA CIP funding to address that for now. We do have settlement in that area, and we're going to try some things that we think will work at this point, which is really just putting in some extra depth of base material where we're having settlement over the pipes with some geogrid structural reinforcement, which we've used on roads before. That, if that works, that will be the most cost-effective way of dealing with it, I think. However, we're going to get a more intensive study done by a consultant who will take samples. We're talking about monitoring groundwater levels, getting testing done, and to do a real design on it to tell us. My concern is I obviously don't want to spend the amount of money we'd spend to go and do the neighborhood as part of a program, which it does need, and then have this reoccurring. So I think there's some work to do, but being in a small area, I think it would be a good test run for us too to see how well that holds up. But that will be one of the projects I've requested.
Great. Any other questions?
Just
Councilman
one
Biggs?
question, Mayor. Real general question, it might be for you, Town Manager, but when we do like these contracts with these different contractors, is there anything or any programs that we have, for instance, the residents, we're in charge of our own sidewalks and whatnot, so we have to fix them, blah, blah, blah. Some of these contractors might be the ones that we have to call to get them. Is there anything like programs that we have where, like, I know we can't incentivize them, but something to help relieve the residents when they have to go out and do these things? I feel like it would help push people to maintain their sidewalks because they know they might get a better deal by using specific contractors. Do we do anything like that with them?
Yeah, the one thing we do for sidewalks, in the last couple of years, we've built it into the contract with the low bid contractor that they will hold our prices for residents that are doing walks along the frontage. Which, I mean, we work on a larger volume, so it's usually a little bit cheaper for them in that respect. And I mean, from what I've heard, there's a number of residents who have utilized that to do the repairs. At this point, that's really the extent of a program that we have available, is just really to ask them to hold those prices when they're doing work for our residents in the right of way.
Thank you.
Just on that front, though, is there anything that prohibits us from when we go out to bid, putting that as a requirement of the bid for all the vendors, that if you do this, you have to provide a set discount and see who comes in with the highest discount for the residents? I mean, think of it this way, it doesn't cost us any money.
Yeah, I mean, we've structured it in a way when we've bid it to say you're going to hold our prices for them. You know, I guess it depends on kind of volume they're getting, and I don't have that data in front of me, but maybe it'd be worth it to them if they've got enough. The problem with this program, for the work they even do for us, is it's really like a spot repair program, and we've talked about it. They have to move from location to location. It's 3 slabs here and 2 there and 4 over there, so it's, you know, we've found over time it's hard for them to be very profitable on it, and we've historically done 2-year contracts, and year 1 is great, year 2 it's a little bit harder to get them back into town to do the work we need. So this year we did a 1-year contract for 2 reasons. It was just a lower total contract value, and also to give them an opportunity to experience what it is and what we need, and then there's the options there to extend the contract if we're agreeable and they're agreeable. So we just started doing that this year. But I mean, I'm open to, you know, discussions on how we can help, because certainly, you've all hear it, I hear it, sidewalks. We have 130 miles of sidewalk in town, so there's quite a bit that needs to be maintained. The residents are responsible, or the property owners are responsible for along their frontages. And as we've talked, that's challenging for staff. It's a challenging situation to be in, to approach people, particularly in the last couple of years, you know, with the pandemic, and people's financial situations may have changed. So, you know, we do our best to work with them and be reasonable, but also at the same time trying to address public safety issues. So, you know, that sidewalks in general is a discussion I would like to have with you more, as far if anybody has ideas on how we can help move that ball forward and get more consistency. I think, you know, I've said it probably up here myself, I feel like we're very reactive to issues. When there's a problem, we get a complaint, we go address it. I would like to be more proactive. It's just difficult with staffing that we have to really to get much done in that respect. So, you know, there's things we can talk about, but yeah, I'm certainly open to that.
Thank you.
For the town manager, I think it was 25 years ago, I set up an account for the town to start funding a sidewalk account. It was a maintenance account. And I remember we seeded it with $25,000 for the budget. I have no idea what ever happened to that. I don't know if it was ever spent, if it's an account that nobody's ever touched for years and since, but we did do it one year because we were getting walloped with sidewalk costs, you know, just on the town property stuff. And so we said, let's just start budgeting for this, and every year put money into this account so that when these maintenance things come up, we don't have to, you know, have this huge increase. We could pull from that. I don't know if you've ever seen that account or whatever happened to that.
I don't know if Derek has.
Not specifically, other than, you know, usually my operating budget, there's a $30,000 to $40,000 request for town sidewalk repairs, as well as I usually have a CIP request for $50,000 to $60,000 for sidewalk ramps that we're required to do when we're going to be paving a road, which is an ADA requirement. Some towns I know do 50-50 programs with residents when they're responsible for it to help offset the cost. I mean, there are different things we can do. It depends on, what we have available for funding, what the council's willing to do.
You haven't seen that account or anything?
Not specifically, unless you're thinking of that ongoing operating account. I know it's been in there.
It was an account we actually set up on the council.
And unless it's that ADA ramp account that we still have. I mean, that's been around a while too, so I don't know the history of it, to be honest with you. But, for funding walks, we request enough to get the sidewalk ramps done that are to meet our mandate. For sidewalk repairs, we kind of work within what we have to get what we need done. But again, that's really just for town properties or private properties where town trees have caused an issue, then we pay for that. But that's a small percentage of the overall 130 miles of sidewalk. Most of it is privately owned. We don't really have money or haven't funded gap closures. I mean, that comes up a lot too. Part of our bike ped plan that we've been developing, that was one of the recommendations in there. There's a lot of areas in town that have gaps in the walk, and people, call them, they like to have it closed. that takes money to do that, which we don't usually have. If it's a small area and we feel we can do it and we can talk to the abutting owner and they're okay with it, we'll do it where we can, but it's difficult to do. So I think, sidewalks is certainly something we can discuss how to better manage them and how to better fund them, going forward.
I can check with Mike O'Neill on that, and I'll get back to you all.
25 years, probably retired by now.
Okay, any other questions on this item?
Sorry, I got us off task with that one.
No problem. No, sidewalks, we actually are working with a resident right now on some sidewalks. And, yeah, Derek's been actually great with that and responding back. It's cost to the resident to do it, but, the town does work with them, providing the contractor at a lesser rate. And then obviously if it is a town issue, like a town tree with the roots pushing up the sidewalk, we will work and do the work. Okay. Seeing no more comments, is there a motion tonight? Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Motion to award the bid for complete site preparation / restoration work, drainage improvements, and additional support services associated with the town's next paving program to General Paving in the amount not to exceed $450,000.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. And item B5B, this is still with Derek. This is the other side of the town, Brown Street from Pine to Crest, and then the cul-de-sac of Westwood Drive. Same fall paving program, different location.
Yeah, it's related. This is really a separate project from our fall paving program. And I had been up here last year, maybe in the spring, and I kind of mentioned this. Last year, what we did is we started, looking at ways we could work with MDC to get more complete projects and leave the roads in better condition when they're done. Last year, they completed new sidewalks. They completed new water main installations in the Pine Lane, Westwood Drive neighborhood. Typically with those types of projects, it's shallow excavation as opposed to sanitary sewer where they're getting very deep, and generally roads will be reconstructed when they have to do sanitary work. But with water main work, we usually walk the roads with them. It's town and MDC staff. We review pavement conditions and we work together, kind of determine what we feel we need for restoration type and limits that are going to be required. Generally, that's going to be based on the pavement condition that's out there now. The number, size, and shape of the cuts into the road, whether they cross the center line of the road or they don't, all factors in. Typically, the three repairs are MDC either provides full depth, full width mill and overlay for the whole road, half width mill and overlay, or they're allowed to just do a permanent trench repair, which is common too, as you see around town. And for this program that's coming up, they're going to be providing either half or full road repair, mill and overlay for most of the roads that they've cut into. But there were a couple of roads out there that had pretty poor pavement conditions. However, how we've typically worked with them, they were only really required to do half the road. They didn't disturb the other half of the road. It was already in pretty poor condition. So when that comes up, last year we did it on, I think, 3 different roads last fall. At the time, it worked out pretty well, so I'm here seeking approval to do that again. This is for Brown Street and Westwood Drive. Both of those roads, like I said, our pavement's not in the greatest shape. They're responsible pretty much on those roads for, I think Brown Street's, we're talking about a 50-50 split with them. They would mill and overlay half, we'd contribute and mill and overlay the other half. On Westwood Drive, they did cross the center line, but it's in very limited areas, so they agreed to just do 60% of the width, and we'll do 40% of the width. So it varies, based on each location. Overall, they'd be paying their cost for all the mill and overlay work's about $240,000 for the whole project. We're talking about splitting costs with them on either a 50-50 or a 40-60 basis for only these 2 roads. They're using the same state contract that we use, so Tilcon would be the contractor who we would use anyway. So what I'm here tonight is just seeking approval for issuing them. I'd like to issue a separate PO for $75,000 that pertains specifically to this shared cost program with MDC, which is going to be separate from our paving program for those two roads, Brown Street and Westwood Drive.
Any questions for Derek on that? Now,
It's less than 75. Didn't you say it was 200 and something?
Yeah, I was saying for all their work, for what they're sharing with us on these two roads, plus there's another 4 or 5 roads that they're either going to be doing full or half-width mill and overlay.
Okay.
Now, on those roads, we felt the pavement conditions were better, so sometimes a half a road mill and overlay seems reasonable. When the road's, really alligator, cracked up and broken, it's kind of hard to find that match point where we feel like it would make sense for us to put a little bit in and get a better quality product for residents when they walk away and they're done.
and I saw the MDC work firsthand last summer and this fall. They were doing a lot of work in that area, Pine Lane, I guess it's Western Boulevard, and then everything that goes west up to Ridge Road. Are they going to be, is that what MDC is going to be doing? A lot of those roads that are the main east-west thoroughfares?
Yeah, Pine Lane and Westwood Drive are the main east-west thoroughfares. As far as north-south connections between them, I think it's Westwood Hill, Pine Lane, Brown Street, maybe those three. So it's that neighborhood that they were working on. So typically what we do on this is for a water main installation, they do the work, they let us settle out over a winter's period, and then they come back the following year and do pavement restoration.
Gotcha.
They're going to be doing similar work up in the La Cava Lane, Ridgecrest Circle neighborhood. They had also finished up some work there early last year. We agreed to what they needed to do, but we didn't feel there's any need for us to contribute to the paving out there. The pavement's in pretty good shape, so that's more work that they'll be doing that we're just not going to be involved in. So the way we handled this last year is we have our inspectors on site to kind of manage the operations. They also have their staff there. So it's a joint effort. We signed a separate agreement with MDC. We did that this last fall. We're working on an agreement right now with them that just kind of outlines who's responsible for what, how that's going to happen, if there's any issues, how that's going to be handled. So there is a specific agreement that we signed that would be executed by the town manager.
Great. I will give a brief shout out to the engineering department and Derek in particular on Yale Street last year, or maybe a little over a year ago. There was a drainage issue from somebody's backyard because of the slope coming down. Couldn't figure out where the water was coming from, and but it was getting onto the pavement and causing icing conditions in the wintertime. You actually put in a culvert, if I'm not mistaken, in that location, so now the water drains into the culvert rather than onto the street. I saw the gentleman who lives in the house and complimented the town for doing that work. Was it easy to tie in that culvert to the existing system, or was it a brand-new connection?
Yeah, we had some great issues there where water was coming out of the backyards and going across the intersection, so it was causing a safety issue with icing, which I concurred with. So what we just had to do was extend, we had a catch basin on a corner that we couldn't grade to it, so we had to put a new catch basin in, maybe 25 feet away on the opposite side of the radius, and we reconstructed that gutter of the road enough to get the pitch so the water flows there and doesn't end up crossing the road where it would ice up. So yeah, no, I mean, those are the types of things where, we probably talked in the past. I don't have a lot of budget even to put in, 30 feet of pipe in a basin, but we try to work it out either through the paving program or sometimes it's done with physical services. But that particular location was in this neighborhood, and we wanted to make sure we had that addressed before they come and do their mill and overlay restoration, which will include that area that was
Oh, that's
done.
great.
Yep.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions, comments for Derek? If not,
Motion?
motion?
Motion to award bid for the mill, furnish, and placement of bituminous concrete for a shared paving program with MDC to Tilcon, Connecticut, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $75,000.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Derek. And then next item B6A, I believe Mr. Presley has a presentation for us that's in our packet, but for the public to see. This is on ARPA funds. We've all talked about it. Thank you to the committee that was established last year to look over a lot of this. And Mr. Town Manager will give his recommendations and open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going to wait a second for this to come up for everyone.
Okay. Let me just bring it up. If we're going to get
Okay, we'll get moving. So,
the priority order.
as you all know, the town was awarded, the town was awarded approximately $7.6 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds in response to the pandemic. Of those funds, we received the first tranche last year, just about this time last year, and that was $3.8 million. The second tranche is due any day, and that's an additional $3.7 million. To date, the council has approved funding, a little bit of that funding, first with the FY22 operating budget. Approximately $380,000 was approved for use for various projects that are displayed here. In addition to that, since that time, the council has also approved a number of projects that you see highlighted here, including the Hamner boiler replacement and some other smaller projects to total roughly about $400,000. So that leaves us with unobligated ARPA funds of approximately $6.8 million, and that's what we're here to discuss this evening. So as part of the budget process, and every year you receive the list of proposed CIP, or capital improvement program projects, as well as proposed capital non-reoccurring, or CNEF projects. Together, those two lists have requests of over $12 million. The budget did not include this year any money for either of those items. It was waited till this process to fund those moving forward. So part of what we're doing here is looking at which of those projects. Obviously, we can't fund all $12 million, right? There's not that much money there. But how much of that we do want to spend of the ARPA funds to fund some of these projects. I'll note that over the last 3+ years that I've looked back on average, it ranges anywhere from 1.6 to, I think, the previous year with 1.8 million that was allocated to those two lists to fund on an annual basis. So you can kind of keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, the ARPA funds can and certainly should be used to offset some of those costs, because there are a lot of, for those eligible projects, there are costs that we can use the ARPA funds for. But I just want to make the push here that I believe also that they should be used to really look at the generational opportunity that we do have here with these funds. We're not going to see funds like this just doled out to the localities like we're seeing this year. So this is a real opportunity, I think, to also make some strategic and transformational investments in the town for the future. So in addition to some of the projects you're going to see from that list initially, there's also a recommendation from staff that we set aside between 10 to 15% of the ARPA funds, which would be roughly between $760,000 and $1.1 million for economic development purposes. I'll tell you that the plan is not in place yet to how those might be spent, because we don't know what that money is yet. So what we look for is to get some direction from this council on an amount that they feel comfortable with moving forward with to set aside. It won't be spent until the plan is brought back to you and you approve that plan. but it's to set that aside to say we're not going to use it for these other projects. We're going to hold that for this purpose. The other recommendation would be to set aside 3%, which is roughly $230,000 for strategic investments in software and systems that could streamline processes, build much-needed efficiencies, and create greater transparency and access for the public. These are applications such as an agenda management system. Weathersfield still does everything by paper for this whole process, these 2 meetings every month. And there are systems out there that greatly build efficiencies into that process and also create a lot more access for the public in that process. There are what's called CRM systems, or complaint resolution management systems, that are being utilized by many localities in this region and throughout the country, that allow residents to identify issues with, we just talked about the road conditions, could be potholes, could be tall grass, could be, garbage in the street, any types of things like that where they have a complaint. They can actually take their smartphone, there's an app for it, they take a picture of it, it geolocates it, it sends it in to the town, they get a response immediately by email saying this has been assigned to this staff member, and they will be responded to within a certain designated amount of time, usually 48 to 36 hours, depending on the issue. But I think one of the most important aspects of a system like this is it also allows us to have the metrics to track how we're doing on those types of things. Are we responding in a timely manner? What are the issues that we're having the most trouble with? And these are all very cost-effective changes that I think will actually save a lot of staff time and far more than we'll expend on the expense in the long term. But so what we're looking at doing with this funding is to set these up, do the initial onboarding for these types of programs. I'll just note some other ones would be human resource management systems. Everything is still done in paper in our human resources department. Doing some of the work with digitizing some of our records that has not been done yet. So these are the types of projects I'd like to move forward with, and then also financial management tools, I think, are another possibility. But these would cover the first initial year, plus, and then we'd come back to you all. If you feel like there's value in it, then we could continue moving forward beyond that, and that would be part of the regular budget process. So what you have in your packet as well is, and you can see I handed you all out this packet here, provided to you is, after the presentation, is a list of projects that staff met and determined that there are certain things that, because they would normally be part of the capital improvement process, and that would have already been approved in this budget, we are normally going out to bid for these things and starting that process already. We're not able to do that because the money has not been allocated yet. So in conversations with staff, the list you see before you are those projects that we really want to get moving on so that we don't delay anymore. As you know, we only have this one meeting in July, so we'd have to wait till August for anything beyond that. You will receive more information on other projects in August and beyond, but this is kind of that first cut of the ones that we feel are most critical. Top of that list is probably the most critical because we are due to do our reevaluation on all the properties, the assessor's offices, and we have to get that bid out as soon as possible. We can't do that without the funding being in place. So there's actually a motion on the next page that would just ask that you budget and appropriate the funds for the projects on this list. You're welcome to talk through any of the items on this list. You can remove or push off if you need more information on any of them. These are the ones that came, again, from staff based upon their determination. Some of these are related to the length of time it's going to take to get some of this stuff as well. Not that they need the equipment today, but they know that there's a lead time in the supply chain that's going to cause delays that we want to get on it as soon as possible. And you'll see at the bottom of the list, there are several mandates that were required by either DEP or other agencies to move forward. I think Derek just mentioned ADA requirements, so we're trying to move forward on those that were mandated for as soon as possible. So at this point, what we're looking for is council direction regarding the dedication of the ARPA funds. Obviously, this is still going to leave you all with about $4.2 million to allocate. Even after, if you agree to everything I just presented, you're still going to have $4.2 million to allocate moving forward. The town has until the end of calendar year 2024 to allocate all the ARPA funds, and they have until end of calendar year 2026 to spend the money. So you can start a project and not actually expend it all until the end of 2026. So at this point, I'm looking for direction from you with respect to the recommendation regarding the economic development and strategic investments, as well as any concern or issues you might have with any of the projects listed here. So I'll open it up with that.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you. The first portion, if you could go back to that slide with the, right there, yeah. I have a couple concerns. One with the economic development. We talked at length earlier on to try and get some ideas of what economic development wanted to do. And at that time, they didn't have anything specific. And, you know, we were a little bit leery of setting aside a large chunk of money with no clear direction of where it was going to be spent, because we would risk not investing that, not using those funds, and then they would lapse. That was one item. I'm all for supporting some economic development plan, but I'd like to see something sooner than later. So as long as there's a time factor, we can't wait until 2024 and say, oh, now we got to come up with something to spend $1 million on.
I'm going to be moving to get you a plan no later than September.
Great. On the 3% set aside, I'm questioning whether that's low, and I could rattle off a wish list of 2 or 3 items
So
right
could I.
now that I'd like to try to get pushed along. I've talked a little bit about a plan for the future of our Weathersfield Fire Department, and possibly having a consultant put something together for long-term. What are we going to do when we don't have enough firefighters to support the effort? I've been an advocate of doing something with yard waste. We talk about it every year. We came up with a test plan for a small sampling of the town, and that just went away. Other towns are doing it. I just found out Enfield just instituted it. They have a brown waste barrel that's picked up every Friday. And we talked about every other week, opposite the recycle pickup days, something like that. We also talked about getting some assistance or guidance about a long-range financial viability plan for trying to come up with a way to relieve the tax burden for people. I don't know if that's even possible, but I'd like to have it considered. There's probably many more, and I don't know the forum for throwing all these ideas out, but I figured I'd at least mention it tonight.
No, absolutely, and you're right, it is low. It's low because those are the ones that we have already started working on and can move on fairly quickly. Again, you have $4.2 million left to talk about. Now, you can put this towards capital, but I think investment in these types of things are exactly what we should be doing with this money.
And going on to the short list that you've presented, the 1.2 million, you have a couple items that I'd like to see if we could put off unless there's some urgent reason why we can't. And the first item is the Ventrac mower, $57,000. When this item came up early on in our committee, I was maybe misunderstood, but this Ventrac mower had the capability of a snow blower, a sweeper, and mower. And what I was looking for was something to replace the use of the Jeeps where they plow our town sidewalks and rip up a foot of turf on each side of the sidewalk. And we're always promised that they're going to come back in the spring and fill those trenches and plant grass seed. And to be honest, that usually never happens, and we end up with these 2 muddy gullies on the side of, walking across Stillman Park and so on. So I'd like some clarification if that's what we're getting, because if we're just getting a lawnmower that's going to be used to cut the grass at Putnam Walkway, which hasn't even started construction, I don't see any reason to rush into purchasing that piece of equipment.
Again, I think that one was a lead time concern, because they're in talking with the vendor. It's several months that they're looking at. So, but we can certainly bring it back to the next meeting if you'd like. Sally could be here to kind of speak specifically to it, but we are under contract with the state. We're liable to do all the maintenance for that, and we have no equipment right now that can deal with the slope.
Right.
That would be involved in that work, which is why we're moving forward with this. But I'm sure it could wait a month if you want to bring it back and ask for more information.
The other item that I'd like to do a little bit of a deeper dive is the annual roof consultant that we pay $74,000 to. And, I've looked at the report that's generated. We're told by physical services that they do a fantastic job, and that, there's a certain amount of service calls that are included in this contract, and it would cost more, I guess, to do it on a purchase order type basis. Then we have a consultant come in and look at our 5 elementary schools, and every one of those schools needs a new roof. So I've questioned before, is that what the report says? Do we get this report and they grade the roofs and it just goes on someone's bookcase and nothing ever gets done about it? We heard from residents at the last meeting about, barrels and pails in the hallways of schools with collecting rainwater, and I'm really questioning how many times does somebody make a call to our contractor, report an issue. Do they have any kind of tracking software like we were talking about tonight, where there's a follow-up, or do the custodians just keep moving the barrels around and on and on and on? I was, a couple years ago, we replaced the roof on 2 portables at Highcrest, and the roof was 2 years old, I believe, and we then decided to refurbish the entire units. So we wanted to make sure the roof was in good condition, and we got a report of, and I can't honestly remember the term. They only have 2 ratings, basically good and bad, of how they qualify everything. And I question, how can a 2-year-old roof be, in poor condition or whatever? Well, they said, because there's a tree hanging over it, the potential for tree damaging the roof exists. That's like saying, your new car is no good because it might get hit by something. So I really question the validity of the contract and what kind of information we're getting, or maybe we're getting it and nothing's being done about it. But we went through a long period of a leaking roof at a firehouse, and we finally got resolved. And I honestly believe that at some point in time, people just stop contacting the outfit about a leak, or the outfit just says, it's not worth going out there, it's just leaking. So I know if it's a contract requirement that we have to pay this by next week or whatever, or is it something that we can further discuss?
Yeah, I honestly can't say I know the specifics of the contract. I just know we are under contract, and this is the amount, the next part of the contract. I don't know exactly when that's due.
So I think it's a 5-year contract that we just, maybe 2 years into it.
Yeah, about that, maybe even longer.
You can request that they provide a report to this council of exactly
Sure.
what they're doing.
Yep.
I mean, it's a lot of roof. It's a lot of, you take every building, then you go the other way. We have a new high school with a new roof completely. That's the largest roof in town. So that really reduces their workload, not, increases it, so.
Actually, while we're on the topic of roofs, just so you know, a couple of really high priority projects that were listed there were the elementary school, was the elementary school roof. So we did not put those on this list only because the action that you all just took with the bond. Why I wanted to check with you all and bring it back in August if you want to move forward. Schools are saying it's not going to last until it goes out to bond and come back and all that. But I just wanted to let you know that held off because I wanted to have that discussion. So there were two items in the elementary school. It's the roof, and then it's also the asbestos removal and carpet removal. So in the schools listed, and that's on the list that's in your packet. You can see those. And they're big ticket items. It's like 300 and some thousand for the roof. And then the asbestos removal was another
85.
So,
We just spent another 150,000 on the High Crest roof prior to you.
Right.
Your arrival, so.
so, and that was pre
It's ongoing, I mean.
the bond whole,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
and I know that came up, that we just spent for the boiler, we just spent
Sure.
for the roof. Before we move forward, bringing those before you again, I wanted to make sure that you want them to come forward, or if not, then we need to have that conversation.
I think, I can't speak for everybody, but we realize that, you know, a 10 to 12-year project, we still have to maintain
Right.
the roof, so it's kind of like throwing money away, but you don't have an option.
Okay.
When you get the water inside the building, you're sunk. So I just, if we could consider those couple items.
Sure.
That's all I have.
And is that the rest of the council in agreement with those items?
Excuse me, Mayor, through you, to the deputy mayor, are you recommending just pulling those two items out of the list that the town manager for the,
Back in August.
and bringing them back and improving the others?
Yeah, unless it's a contract requirement, and we don't have a choice, so I don't know how to find that out.
Okay, let me.
And just a quick question about the Ventrac mower. In the presentation tonight, it's 57,000, but in the,
75.
yeah, CIAC, it was 75.
Yeah, so that,
go.
the 75 was based upon an estimate. We've since gone out and got pricing from the vendors, and the low price was what's presented here tonight.
And I know we had the consultant from DOT on to talk about the project. Do we know a start date for that Putnam Bridge connection?
Derek, can I actually give you an update? I just found out, just went to a meeting, right?
Kevin said there's not.
Yes, for the Putnam Bridge Trail Project, last meeting I attended a couple weeks ago, they said they were starting work in July, maybe even this week, with the expected completion date of fall of 2023. So as far as if that's starting in Weathersfield or Glastonbury, my understanding from the contractor was they're planning to work in both towns kind of simultaneously, even though more of the projects in Glastonbury than Weathersfield, that should be getting underway now. So it'd be some point next year they're expecting to be done.
Okay, and then we just got to know the timetable for how long it would take to get this mower or any type of mower to be able to do this. I know, I remember that presentation and just thinking, can't we just put two guys out there with weed whackers just to hit the hill?
I mean, I'm right there with you. I was already thinking it.
I think you and I could put our glasses on and a long pair of pants and just do it ourselves.
Tom took his questions right out. I was right there with you.
Yep. Yeah, let's get a little bit more information. I know it is a priority, obviously, for physical services. It does say it's a high priority. It did go from 75 down to 57,000, which is good. But if they do need lead time, and if it is in fact true that DOT will be starting this and they expect it to be completed fall of 23, I mean, it gives us a year.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'd be mowing it and maintaining it spring, summer of next year, or spring, summer of 24. So
That priority that you see there, the committee priority ranking, that high was established by Pat, myself, and Kevin Hill of the projects, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I was just, that was my question is,
So
I
it
don't
wasn't,
see
it wasn't
some of
from
the,
physical service.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see some of those requests that we voted on in that subcommittee on this list, and I just wanted to know if those allocations that we voted on were actually taken into account when we're doing the math here. Because we had a bunch of stuff that I don't see on here.
Yeah, this is only the
These are only
short list.
time-sensitive ones, so those other ones, again, there's $4.2 million. Those are going to come back to you all, and we're
Okay.
going to, and it's going to be based upon that prioritization.
Yeah, that was my only question.
Yeah.
Ken?
Thank you, Mayor. So first off, I'm in agreement with Tom's idea of pulling those two items and maybe acting on the other sensitive items. I want to thank the town manager for this presentation, this proposal. I do believe it is a transformational opportunity for Weathersfield. It's kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with all these extra funds, over $7 million and 6.8 left to go. And I feel if we only use them for maintenance, and I know most of the items that we'll spend it on will be maintenance related and things that have been deferred or delayed, but if we only send it on that, we'll be missing some opportunities to invest in Weathersfield's future. And I do like this set aside both for economic development and strategic investment. So applaud you for that, in agreement with it. A couple questions. First on the math. So if we were to allocate 1.2, I want to get to how you got to the 4.2 million, Mr. Town Manager. So did you start with the 6.8 in terms of the overall?
So I started with the 7.6.
Yeah, okay.
I removed the funds that you have allocated to date. Then I took out the 1.2 and the 1.1 for economic development.
Okay,
And
okay, you
so
took out
I
these two as
took all
well.
of those, and
Okay,
that's.
and there's still 4.2 after those
Correct.
two set-asides. Okay, that helps. And then with the economic development, there was, Mr. Deputy Mayor asked about, was there any specific plans? And part of it, my understanding, is for facade improvements, which I think businesses in town have, and that's in there, I think 205,000.
Yeah.
And then signage, which I think, my way of thinking, it's appropriate as people drive into Weathersfield to have gateway flags or banners or signage that you see in a lot of towns. I think it's a nice look for Weathersfield to have a nice signage. So some of the things were in there, Tom, but not, I think some of it is also kind of left for a full plan, but I'm in agreement with that. And my last question, Mr. Town Manager, I think there was some discussion about looking into hiring, and I don't know if it falls under the economic development set aside, the strategic investments, or is not part of that, some type of, I'll call it communications director, and this person, she or he, would do things like social media for us, which I feel we're a little behind in terms of social media and what we do here from a town perspective. Is that part of the thinking in the set-asides in terms of a potential position or person to do, I don't know, communication or social media? I think the town could potentially benefit from a person doing that.
I think it could certainly be part of what EDIC and redevelopment come back to you all with, and that might be a consultant role initially, to have somebody kind of serve that role, and then ultimately you can decide at a later time if it warrants a regular position that's ongoing. What we try to do with any of these funds is limit the ongoing costs that are going to be incurred, because once this money is gone, it's gone, and then it becomes part of the regular budget. Now, you'll notice that there is a position in here for the project manager as part of what's being proposed here, but that will be basically, we'll make it clear to that individual that it's contingent upon this funding, and then after 2026 it goes away. So the original amount I think was $700,000. That was in the list that was reviewed. We're going to drop that down to 500 because we did the work. We did the job. Derek did the job description, looked at the salary. We looked at all the benefits, and based upon those costs, we think 4 years at 126 roughly would cover salary and benefits if that person were to come on full time. And then at that point, it's a decision for the council if they want to move forward with that or not. But it's going to help out Derek's group a lot, because then we'll have somebody, as well as other projects.
And lastly, and it's related to the set-aside for economic development, when you presented to us, Fred, in the town manager interviews, and I particularly thought this was something exciting and something for us to look into, you presented a Silas Deane, I'll call it improvement plan. And one of the concepts was, I think you used the term walkable nodes. And it was like 4 intersections that would be, we all hear about, we got to improve the Silas Deane, we got to improve the Silas Deane. That was a plan that was is part of that the thinking that some set-aside funds could be used to help create something like that? Because I think that would be something that would benefit the town if we could get there.
No question, and we put a lot of effort in this, and Derek and Joya and Denise and myself have had several meetings now with Derek with DOT, and we've also met with CROG about this. There's a lot of other pots of money out there right now, both ARPA connected, but then also the infrastructure monies that we are gearing up to submit on for that exact project. So we're working through that process right now. And so we feel like we're going to be very competitive and be able to get other funds for that, to take advantage of those, because they're actually more appropriate for this purpose.
Okay, good. Well, I didn't want that concept to be lost.
No
I thought that was a
question.
great
Yeah.
concept. And as you point out, and the mayor knows well, working with the state government, there is a lot of funds available, more than I can remember. And hopefully, we're at the table for a lot of these funds. So, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
One comment about the, if you recall early on, I think was it Mike Mazinski that came in and
Yeah.
talked to us?
Yes.
So he cautioned us to be careful with, adding positions, because just what the town manager alluded to, these funds are going to run out, and you don't want to put a lot of extra positions on that, may be great, but we have to find a way to pay for them in our annual budget in the near term. So I just like to have everybody keep that in the back of their mind.
Mayor, can I respond to that? Thank you. I think it's a good point, and one of the things the town manager mentioned that may help us with that, we potentially could hire consultants on a 1 or 2 year basis, and then when the time runs out, and then we can evaluate, or whatever council, whoever's sitting up here, can evaluate, do we want these to continue? And that may be a way to, because I don't want to miss these opportunities, but that may be a way instead of long-term funding it. Good.
It's very hard to bring somebody in that's doing a great job, and then to have to say, sorry, the grant money ran out,
Well,
bye-bye, and it's just human nature, right? I mean, could go the other way, you could end up with a dud, if you will. It's like, okay, time's up, goodbye, thank you.
Also, I'll just mention, a lot of this project management stuff, these are all grant eligible expenses. And I think as a town, we could be a lot more aggressive in going after other grants. And, basically 10 to 15% is accepted for administration, project management for those grants. And ideally, after 2 or 3 years on board, this individual will be able to fund their salary. And that's the way I envision it. And that's through other grants that we're able to get and do those projects. So that would be the goal. And we'll be able to evaluate that in the time that we have here.
I just want to be clear. So, but this project manager, you're going to bring them on just to manage the funds that are coming from this. So, in addition to this, they'll be applying for grants to.
We have a contractor that applies for grants for us right now, but they'll be managing the projects, additional projects, so they could manage additional projects, provided the funding is available from those other grants. So what we'll do is we'll have to try to manage that time, but initially it'll be all the ARPA projects.
That'd be working with Derek.
Working with Derek and others, we might be working with Joya or Denise, depending on the project. But yeah, most of it's going to be Derek. Yeah.
He's a busy guy.
You're trying to take some pressure off your back.
And I'll just real quickly, I did get a response from Sally. So the contract, it is a yearly contract, and it begins July 1. So we're kind of behind the 8 ball right now. She says if we wait too long without approving it, their contract also includes all the emergency response calls. So if there's an emergency leak, they go out, they're the ones that address those issues, so that they can basically charge us whatever at that point. So she just brings that up as an issue, but then she said she's happy to bring that in or get a report for you all at the next meeting. In the meantime, if you can just give more direction as to what you want them to report specifically on. Are you looking at number of calls? Are you looking at, their analysis? What exactly you're going to be asking them to report on?
When they get called in, are they fixing a leak, or are they just saying, oh, yeah, there's a leak?
It's a good question.
It
It sounds like they're fixing it, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'd like to see.
Yeah.
And you know what, if it's due July 1, well, then maybe we don't pay and we don't need them. I'm sure they're not gonna raise their rates if we wait a month.
But it's a contract.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
a renewable contract.
It's a renewing
Five-year.
contract.
Yeah. It's a yearly contract. Includes roof
So it's
inspections
not
in
5
addition
years.
to emergency response.
But it was a 5-year term, but it's a yearly
Yeah.
renewal?
Yearly renewal, because anytime, it's all budget-based, so we're not allowed to enter into 5-year contracts
Okay.
unless it has the language that says pending council budget approval.
Okay.
So that's kind of all part of all of our contracts.
So with-
5-year contract, 73 and change a year.
Right. Everyone is renewed based upon budget.
Councilman Biggs?
So with the roofing, because this was the first one I saw, like Tom alluded to, they're a roof consultant, but it seems every year we have issues with every roof that they don't look at, it seems like. So what I think Sally will need to present to us is, what does this contract entail as a consultant? What are they doing? Are they, like we just asked, are they looking and telling us, or are they, giving us a strategic plan on what we can do to mitigate it and not have to deal with this the next year? Because it seems like every year nothing's getting done. So if we don't need them because nothing's getting done, I'm not for a contract. We know the roofs need to get replaced. You just said that the schools are telling you that we need new roofs. Who's telling them this? Is this the consultant or is this the schools? Because if the schools are doing this without the consultant telling them, why do we have the consultant?
You have a consultant.
So if she can present what's in the contract and what they're actually doing, I'd rather hear that rather than say, yes, let's approve this $73,000 for someone that's not doing what we need them to do.
Okay.
So, Mike.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
So, I have seen the report, and it's available online. Sally Katz could provide a link where you can go on and view it. And it's like an annual inspection, I believe. They go around and there's pictures of leaves in the gutters, and, this should be done and that should be done. They do what I consider minor maintenance. And they have, each section of the roof mapped out for every building. It's an extensive report, and then they've rated the roofs in different categories of, should eventually be repaired or should eventually or replaced, and it goes on and on. And you could say that about every roof in the town. So I have never seen any kind of tracking of, a call was reported, a leak was reported Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and the crews came out and they found out where the leak was, and by Tuesday it didn't leak anymore. And I've dealt with flat roofs. I have a building that has a flat roof, and it's a nightmare because you have one small pinhole over here, but the leak shows up on the other side of the building. And so it's not so easy for them to do. And as a building owner, my frustration got to the point where, well, the roof is 25 years old. We probably should just replace it at great expense, hoping that all the leaks would go away. Well, guess what? I still had a leak. It took another 6 months to fix it. So it's a challenge, but I'm just wondering if, the town's getting their money's worth for it. And I don't know how the system works. I know Sally Katz has been in and gives them high marks for what they do and the amount of calls and hours that they put in, and says, yeah, we got our money's worth. But I just question it when another consultant comes in and says, all 5 schools need a roof now. So I think it's worth looking into a little bit further than we have in the past.
So can we make a motion to pull those 2 out and vote on the rest? Tom, you want to make that motion?
Hang on. So I had a question about the turnout gear. If you remember correctly, during the budget, there was funding in there for new turnout gear.
I think all that moved.
Yeah, moved here.
I remember we had that extensive conversation about that.
Yep. That is this turnout gear was moved to here? Okay. And that's, is the 12 turnout gear?
12, yeah, turnout gear for 12 sets, yeah.
Oh, 12 sets?
Yeah,
Okay. Is that 12 individual
Yes.
firefighters?
Yeah.
At 48,000? I mean, that's $4,000 for just one turnout gear?
Jacket, boots, helmet, gloves, whatever else.
Wow.
yeah, not cheap. I will note here that the, you'll notice that the breathing
Yeah,
apparatus are not included here,
680,000.
because they actually are fairly confident they might be able to get a grant to cover the bulk of that, so they're going to hold off and come back with that. Probably all but 100,000 might be covered through the grant.
If I could just add, they did have a test in Newington, I believe, and they were evaluating the two different suppliers. The original supplier that they have now is Scott, and there's another outfit that came in with a more competitive price. Some people like it, some didn't. Their general consensus is like, keep the guys happy and give them what they want, are most comfortable using, which is the original Scott air packs. But they haven't provided any formal summary of all the test results. The grant is only for, I believe, 450,000, where the total purchase is 680. So we've tried to find out if we were going to get the grant, but no one's leaking any information, I guess.
No pun intended. Okay, and then revow, that's every 5 years, and we typically budget for that. We just never put that in the budget this year?
Yeah, it was specifically called out to something that ARPA could be used for.
Okay. I mean, obviously, we need it.
Yep.
What's the status on the assessor? Is there a,
Mike is still working on an applicant, trying to
okay.
get an agreement in place.
And then our reval wouldn't be done this fall. This is in prep for reval for 2023?
I think that's right.
If I'm not
We're gonna get the
mistaken.
contract in place.
It's
Is it this fall?
I think it's
Or is-
now.
It's this fall.
It is this fall? Oh, we will see
See it next
see
year.
it in our 23.
Correct, but we're doing it this fall.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
It's October 1, 22
Yeah,
evaluation.
so we got to get it on the street real quick.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike was, Mr. O'Neill was concerned about it the night we voted on the budget.
Yeah.
Grabbed me in the hall and said, I need the money because we have to get going on this. So-
Yep. Yeah, and there's companies that do it. Okay. So just to backtrack to what Councilman O'Connor was going to do, but you had the suggestions. The mower, let's get some more information on that timeline, whether or not we need it ASAP, if, we can hold out until the project is finished.
Whether it can be used for snow removal.
Roof consultant, we all just talked about that. We would put a hold on that until we get some more information from the contractor. Traffic sign inventory consultant, and I know it's a mandate. Are they looking to see if we comply with the traffic sign inventory?
Refer to the expert.
The request is to get a consultant on board to inventory all of our signs and get us that information, because the mandate is, the town is required to have a management system in place to manage the signs. Primary concern is the retro reflectivity, or how visible they are at night. So as part of that process, they can identify that as well. And then the thought is we want to get a snapshot of them all at once, rather than doing them over a long period of time, because there's always signs coming up and coming down throughout the season. So this was to get a consultant on board to do that. Once the data is there, then engineering division can manage it, and then we can set up our capital programs from that based on what the need is, and set a schedule for sign replacements.
Okay. I think I may have mentioned this to you at the time, a couple months ago. Also in that inventory, repetitive signs, I think we've heard from other counselors on here that if you go down certain roads or Silas Deane Highway, some of the larger thoroughfares, I mean, it's just sign after sign after sign, and we've had, residents come in and, they're green, they're yellow, they're blue, they're red, and it's just a mismatch of signs throughout. So would that be included in this? I mean, it's like, okay, we can take out some of these signs. Some of them that are old that say, like former stop, bus stop or something like that, that's no longer there. We can get not only an inventory, but we can also start to remove some obsolete signs and then improve and put better reflectivity on those signs that are required.
Yeah, we have two options. Either we can include that in the contract for them to do and identify, or once we have that data, it'll be easier for us to analyze it and identify, we can look at all no parking signs and see that we got a bunch in a cluster, those types of things. So it could either be done by staff. I guess it would come down to, what I have available for budget, but that may be a worthwhile, get a price for it at least and see what they can do. But to your point, yes, that is an issue and it can be addressed either way, but we can address it.
Thanks, Derek.
If I could just add, this has been on the list for several years. We've been pushing it off for budget reasons, so I really think it's time that we bite the bullet and get it done.
Would that help us figure out Morrison Ave stop sign?
If I have any say in it, yeah.
So those would be just the two items removed, the roof consultant and the mower. And I saw you out with your calculator, so you have the new funding request.
1132785.
Yep.
There you go.
Make a motion?
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, or do you want to make a motion to approve the funds and then just say minus?
You actually had it spelled out in here.
Yeah, there's actually an emotion on the packet that I handed out, the last page.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to budget and appropriate American Rescue Plan Act's funds to the Capital Non-Reoccurring Expenditure Fund and the Capital Improvement Program Fund for the following time-sensitive projects and amounts, minus the $57,000 for the Ventrac mower, and minus the $73,747 for the roof consultant, making for a total allocation or appropriation of $1.132785 million.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
And just in terms of direction for the economic development, it sounded like there was general consensus as far as a set-aside, and I'll come back to you all with the plan. But in terms of the 10% versus the 15% and the 3% for strategic investment, is there any further direction you want to give staff to bring back to you all?
I mean, I don't have a problem going up to the 1.14 million with the caveat that if you don't have a plan that
Absolutely, yeah.
funds that are not
The proposal.
expended. Yep.
You have complete control of that money coming back. It's just to give us direction on what we bring back to you all based upon your direction.
And this doesn't include
The 3% or no?
not the 3%.
Okay.
That was just for the
economic
economic development.
Right.
It's not the RDA component that had some discussion that we fund purchasing properties or anything like that just yet?
Just yet, no, it's just more of the broader stuff. I mean, there might be some gap financing and things like that that they come back to you all with for new businesses, things like that.
And on the list here, department requests, we did have, facade improvements, banners for gateway roads.
Those could be included in this amount. That's why those weren't brought forward.
Refuse cans, Silas Highway Design Plan. So there was some of that already in the initial request. I just wanted to add that I'd like to see, some kind of forum where we can discuss adding things to that 3% component of, I'm not the only one with some ideas, so.
Absolutely.
We could put that out there, and that may become a bigger number, so I think we should try to pin those two components down before we move forward with all the hard,
Yep.
concrete,
Right,
brick and mortar type stuff.
agreed.
And that's what we're going to be discussing, excuse me, Mayor. That's what we're going to be discussing in August, is those type of proposals and what we want to move forward with. I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, streamlining town government, when we met with Fred early on, he had some great ideas. And, I think where we can relieve some of the stresses of, every day on the town clerk with what she's doing paperwork-wise in her office, she could actually be turning it around and looking at revenue-generating sources. I think all departments can be doing that. We could be doing it more effectively and, as I said, streamline the process so that we truly utilize the staff for their intended roles.
Is there a way that we can, between now and our next meeting, August, if we can have some kind of information sharing or something so that we, like, even though this is a short list, we get presented it, and we don't really have a lot of time to go back and forth on it. So I'd hate to have this big number that we're, going to vote on in first meeting in August or whatever.
And again, timing-wise, you don't have to vote on anything in August. We do have time.
Right.
We could present it in August and get more feedback and then come back in September, start to spend some of it. I don't think you should try to spend the rest of the 4.2 over the next month or 2 or 3 or 4. I think you should take your time, look at the opportunities, get the things that need to move forward. But if, as you have ideas that come up and say, yeah, let's move forward with that money's there. Because there is time with it. Unlike the CARES Act where you had to spend it all in like 2 weeks, this, they actually thought about it and said, no, you've got some time to spend it, so.
Not on pizza and yoga.
No.
Chair yoga.
Still,
That's what it was.
yeah.
Chair yoga.
Okay. Moving on with the agenda. Thank you, Sue, for, I don't know if everybody has the minutes for June 21st in their packet. If folks had a chance to go through these, if there's any questions or comments on those.
A motion to approve the minutes of the June 21st meeting?
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Sue, and your staff for doing, again, a great job with these minutes. And I know, Fred, you're working on a way to concise a lot of these, so it won't be so time-consuming for staff to do the minutes. Especially, I think that was a late meeting, if I'm not mistaken, that we...
Doing well tonight so far.
There was one comment made after my final vote on the town that didn't get put into the minutes. I think it came down from the left over there. Well, I don't know, that's where I heard it come from.
I think it was from your watch.
So
You say right.
I noticed that I have a suspicion of where that came from, and I noticed that person didn't come to the meeting to apologize. I thought it was, yeah, it was funny, but I take the job serious, and I don't cast a vote without doing my research, and I think I had some credible reasons of why I voted the way I did, and, I don't have thin skin. A joke's a joke, but I don't think it was appropriate.
Okay.
That doesn't have anything to do with you, Sue. It was not a council or comment, so it was from the audience, so.
Hey, I'll just make the comment here in the public. That did come from my watch, and I honestly did not set it up. I don't know how it happened, so this is my public apology to you that you shouldn't have had to deal with that, and I'm sorry that did happen to you.
Thank you. So, motion carries to approve the minutes of June 21st. We will go now down to item number 8, public comment. This is the second public comment. Again, 5 minutes, and state your name and address for us, please. Mr. Young?
Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. Your discussion a few minutes ago regarding the ARPA program and how you're going to divvy up $7.6 million, which was all fictitious money to begin with. I guess that's going to be quite a chore. And looking at the information on the screen where you want to make investments in the town's future, I wonder how much that means. You want to make economic development and organizational strategic investments. Buying a lawnmower probably is some kind of a long-term investment. But I think that the real long-term investment that you folks have totally missed is the Keisha Farm. Putting that into a 55 and year older subdivision. If you would go forward and spend a few dollars of your ARPA money and do a schematic based on a planned community for that property, and you have 27 acres of buildable land, you should come up with approximately 104 building lots. An acre of land represents 43,500, in that range, 350, somewhere in that range, square feet. That's 43,000 square feet. I'm going to just talk it, I don't know the exact number. Those planned building lots are only 7,000 and 8,000 feet in size. They're jammed in there. They're small because it's meant to keep it small for small, so the expenses are not high for those owners, but it really is high. And you don't need to spend a lot of land on those homes. So if you got 4 houses per acre at 7,000 square feet each, that's 28,000 out of the 43,000 square feet of an acre, leaving you for road, the remainder for road, which means it's a very viable size building lot. If you put in an 8,000 square foot house lot for those nice units, it comes up to 32,000 out of your 43,000 square foot per acre for the roads. I'm just giving you some different sizes of the lot. And I'm only talking 4 per acre, which will still give you 108 units. You bring in a builder, he first of all, each of those homes, once he builds them, will be worth around $10,000 a year in property taxes that you'd be able to collect. And that gives, when it's all sold out, you're over $1 million. extra dollars coming in from that little tiny development of 108 properties. Now, the potential of selling that property is you bring in the right builder who ends up selling, and he develops it. But the town of Weathersfield, of course, does the schematics, does the conceptual designs, all the work that is required, and the town gets paid for it. It's a kickback, in a sense, for doing the work, instead of taking everything here today is get a consultant to do something. We have our own people, and if our own people can't do it, we should get people who can do it. And the end results are that, you could make a lot of money. I know, Mayor, you said at one point you didn't want to make any money or much money on that property. But the way things are going, I really think you should all consider that, because this is taxes for perpetuity. It's forever. This is what you go and read those words that you had up there a few minutes ago, and you're talking about building investments in the town for long term. This is long term. What you do is spend money on, how much money have we spent over the last 20 years on the Silas Deane Highway for economic development? And what do we have? We still have a lot of empty buildings. We have buildings on the street that people who are using our buildings, town of Weathersfield buildings, they could be renting those buildings. And we could be using our buildings that would then be empty for some reason or sell them. There's a lot of things here in the mix that could happen, but it's not happening. There's no discussion. And I urge you to start talking about this, because I'm going to continue talking about it, okay? I'm going to continue talking about this, Mayor, forever, as long as I'm able to come here. And when you do nothing, we're going to keep talking about it. And we'll see how things work out that way. But thank you for the time, and give that some thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last, the public comments, unless there's Mr. Hall.
Chris Hall, 46 Garden Street. You get hammered so much, I wanted to say something positive. I was really encouraged how you mentioned in the plan for how to spend that money to limit projects that create future expenses. And you mentioned avoiding creating jobs that would then fall upon the town to pay once the Arpa, I guess to say, money runs out. And I think that's great. I would even encourage a more detailed list of things to avoid, to include things like certain projects that would be considered development, because they would be physical developments, but would cost maintenance money, such as like how much more time mowing, or the cost of fertilizers, the cost of that for like a field. Whether it's sports or improving or increasing open space, just any kind of project, you're on the right track. I just would even be even more self-governing, or I don't know what the term is, but I just think it's good that you have that. I came here to hear that, and I'm glad I heard it, and a lot of people I know think the same way. So you're on the right track as far as I'm concerned. So that's just a citizen's opinion on saying you're doing the right thing. I didn't know signs were going to be talked about tonight, but just real quickly, if we're going to go through a sign inventory process, I would just ask, and I've heard it from a lot of people because I live right around the corner from Main Street, that it's starting to look like an airport runway with all the glow in the dark signs. So in that survey or project, I know a lot of people who want it to keep looking more like a village, because it's the quaintness that brings in the people that will be using that new footpath across the river soon into Old Weathersfield. If something can be done in the plan, I don't see them here, for even, not just a sign inventory, but appropriate signs. And lack of cones and less glow-in-the-dark paint, and some of it is required, but if that's included in the evaluation, I just think it's a good idea. And then just a quickie, because I don't want to make a longer meeting, but repairing and replacing roofs is a lot cheaper than a new school. Oh, and, no, that's not for tonight. All right, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll move that we go into executive session.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We are in executive session.